Hello friend, myself Prakash Sada. Dear student, today we are going to learn 5th standard grammar lesson number 29, sequence of tenses. In this lesson we will learn sequence of tenses. Let's see. The word sequence means order of things. The word sequence means order of things. That is sequence. In grammar, if one clause follows another, its verb takes form according to certain rules. This what we call sequence of tenses. So dear students, in grammar, one clause of follow another clause. Its verb takes form according to certain rules. This what we call sequence of tenses. So as a rules, let's first one. If the main clause of complex sentence is in the present, or if main clause, as we learn, principal clause or main clause, and second is there subordinate clause. There are two types of clauses: principal clause or main clause and subordinate clause, that dependent clause. So when complex sentence is in the present or future tense, the verb of dependent clause may take any form of any tenses. Let's see, if it is complex sentence of that, if tenses is there present or future tense, that time the verb dependent, the dependent clause may take any form of any tenses. As let's see, I know that he is notorious. This sequence of tense, present tense after present tense, present tense after present tense, and second is there, I know that he will do the job well. I know that he will do the job well. Here, future tense after present tense. In this is the, because as a definition we learn, if the main clause of complex sentence is present, and here this is the I know present, and here is the future tense. He will do the job. There are the future tense. So it takes any tenses, any that. So that's why future tense after present tense. Dear students, first I want to clear you what is clause. I want to clear about a clause. What is clause? A clause, a group of words which part of sentence and contains, which part of sentence and contains a subject, contains a subject and predicate, contains a subject and predicate, each called a clause. And every sentence has two parts, subject and predicate. Every sentence has a two parts, subject and predicate, is called clause. For example, Mohan reads well. This is one example. Mohan reads well. In this sentence, Mohan is a subject and remaining part is a predicate. Mohan reads well. So reads well. Mohan reads well. Mohan reads well. So reads well. It is predicate, and Mohan is a subject. So predicate, subject, and predicate is called clause. So let's see one example. And as I have told, there are two cheap clauses, or there are two main clauses. That kinds of clauses, let's principal clause or main clause. Principal clause or main clause. Main clause or principal, again we can say independent clause. And second is that subordinate clause or dependent clause. So let's see one example about clause. We admire a man. We admire a man is we admire a man who is courageous. This is one example. And in this example, the word group, we admire means we admire a man. With the word group, we admire a man forms one clause. This is the one clause. It is the forms one clause. And the words group, who is courageous, this is the another clause. Who is the courageous forms another clause. So this is who admire a man. This one is we call, this is the principal clause. This sentence, this clause is the independent. It is not dependent another that. But this is we call to the principal clause, or we can say main clause. It is not independent. But who is courageous? This is called to the subordinate clause. Subordinate clause. And who is courageous? This clause depend on first clause, means principal clause. So that's why, and all, as according to that, all complex sentence is a clauses. Complex sentence is a clause. So this is I explained about the clauses, and then again I want to clear you a sequence of tenses. Rule number second. When the independent clause is in the past tense, if when independent clause is in the past tense, the dependent clause must also be in the past tense. Dependent clause, I told you. Independent clause means principal clause or main clause. And subordinate clause means there is the dependent clause. So when independent clause means principal clause in the past tense, that time dependent clause must be also in the past tense, means both there is the, it is the past tense. Let's see example. First, he asked me why I was late. In this example, he asked me, this is the independent clause. And why I was late, this is dependent clause. So this dependent clause is depend on main clause or principal clause. So now let's see, he asked me, this is also he asked me, past tense. I was late. Here also I was late, this is also past tense. So past tense after past tense. Past tense after past tense. Next example, John remarked, this is independent clause, that conjunction, he was very tired. This is next means dependent clause also in past tense and independent clause also past tense. So past tense after past tense. Example third. She replied. She replied. She replied. Here is the past tense. That she had forgotten my name. Forgotten my name. So here is the she had. Means here this first one is the simple past tense and next one is the past perfect tense. She had past perfect tense my name. So rule number third. If independent clause in the past tense, so it is must to be in the past tense, means dependent clause also must into the past tense. Rule number third. If the main clause is in the past tense, if the main clause means again same as the independent clause or principal clause. If main clause in the past tense, the dependent clause can be in the present tense only if it is states a universal truth. Dear student, concentrate. Here is the sequence of tenses. Sequences of tenses we are going to learn. So remember these rules is very important. If the main clause in the past tense and the dependent clause can be in the present tense, but in that condition is there. The condition is that only if condition is there that if it is a state's universal truth. Do you know universal truth? There is that. Let's see which are the universal truth. Universal truth like the teacher told us. Here is the teacher told us. This is the teacher told us. And what that? A main clause in the past tense. Now teacher told. So this is the main clause. This is the in past tense. But told, teacher told us. What told? That is the that after the that conjunction. Honesty is the best policy. What is the so honesty is the best policy. Do you know honest? So honest is the best policy. This is the universal truth. Universal truth. Second example. Scientist knew that. This is main clause. Scientist knew that. Scientist knew that the earth attracts everything towards its center. This is the universal truth. This is the universal truth. So whenever universal truth is there, that time the sun rises. Like many are examples. So when universal truth is, that time it will be, that time the dependent clause can be in the present tense, and all these are the dependent clauses are in dependent clause are in when it is the universal truth, it will be in present tense. It will be in present tense. So dear students, today we complete a lesson sequence of tenses, and it's there 3-4 rules before we learn about subject and predicate. Subject and predicate means every sentence has a two parts, subject and predicate, and that subject each call is a clause, and I explain also clause. What is a clause? That's when. What is a clause? That also I explain. And there are means two chief clauses. That first one is there principal clause or main clause. Main clause we are calling independent clause. Second is there is the subordinate clause or dependent clause. So and complex sentence has a clauses. Complex sentence also I explain. So sequence of tenses. There are 3 rules, and when you will understood about these 3 rules, so you will understand also the sequence of tense. Sequence of tenses. So dear students, today we complete the lesson sequence of tenses. Let's see some examples related these tenses. Fill up this Fill up each blank with the correct tense of the given in brackets of the verb. It is already provided in verb given that and you complete it. First example, he walked as fast as he, and in bracket is the two verb given. He walked as fast as he. So it will be, because here he walk, this one is the main clause and it is in past tense. So if it is past tense, so after that tense will be after again is the past tense. So answer will be could. Could. Second, you will success if you. Here is the given future tense, and if it is a future tense, again same is there, it will be present tense. So that's one. If you will success, if you try, as it is the verb, we will not change it. Example third, just as he dash dash it rained. What? And in bracket verb is the given reach. Here just as he, and here this dependent clause it is in past tense, so that in main clause also that, so reach means the verb we will write in past tense, reach. Example number 4, we waited. Here also that principal clause or independent clause. He waited for his friend until he and that. So it will come. It will become in that came. Answer will be came. So we wait for his friend until he came. So this is also worksheet we today complete. So dear students, today we complete a lesson sequence of tenses. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.